Hey, everybody. I'm interrupting this podcast episode to tell you about the Listening Lab because registration is open and I don't want you to miss it. I've been working on this for months and I'm so excited that it's going to be happening live on July 2nd at noon Eastern. And I want you to come so that you can learn one of my favorite tools, the 3L method. Because you know that moment when you've asked your kids to put on their shoes or do their homework or do a chore and they look at you like you've just asked them to solve some quantum mechanics problem? Yeah, that's the moment we're going to be looking at and examining. That moment where you're thinking, oh, cool, I've become invisible. Awesome. Love that for me. My kids do not listen. I want to just pause for a moment and let you know that in moments like that, typically your kid's brain is on airplane mode. Not kidding. When they become dysregulated, their nervous system goes into this mode where it says, nope, we're closed for business. Try again later. And even though you might have a perfectly reasonable request, it's going to bounce off them like throwing a marshmallow against a brick wall. So I'm going to teach you the 3L method. It's a method I created for myself 10 plus years ago. And we're going to spend 90 minutes learning the theory and the application. You're going to discover exactly how to get through to your kids when their brains have gone full Fort Knox, full lockdown. I'm going to teach you this tool and how you can listen and be present with your kids. When I teach parents this, they'll literally message me saying, oh my gosh, my kids just listened to me. I didn't lose my mind. I haven't yelled all day. So I want to teach this to you as well, because we really do have two choices. We're at this crossroads. We're hitting almost the middle of summer. And you might be thinking, okay, this is going to be a good summer. We're going to turn things around, or I want to get things even better. I want to do something new. We can keep playing the ask over and over and over game and lose our cool and feel like we're needing to use consequences and punishments and rewards to get our kids to do anything. Or we can use the 3L method. You can sign up for the Listening Lab. You can make an investment that's less than a fancy cup of coffee from Starbucks and learn how to use a 3L method to connect with your kids, to get them to want to listen to you, to set limits from a really good place, even when they're melting down. All you have to do is go to cmp.works/listen, and I'll put that in the show notes to make it super easy for you to register. You can come live, which I highly recommend. But if you can't come live, I get that too. We're busy. The replay is going to be there for you whenever you are able to listen to it, because honestly, life's too short to spend it trying to get our kids to listen, especially when it feels like no matter what we do, they don't hear and we end up feeling frustrated. All right. So hope to see you all at Listening Lab. Until then, enjoy today's podcast. Children naturally want to listen. They want to love. They want to cooperate with the adults or people in their life that they feel connected to, that they feel attached to, that they have deep, meaningful relationships with. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hello, everybody. I wanted to do a little episode about tantrums and about how to deal with them. What do we do with tantrums? A lot of us have evaluated our parenting ability based on our child's behavior. And so if they are happy or pleasant or cooperative, polite, if they're good at listening, then we tend to feel really good about how we're doing, and we feel really good about our kids, and we can feel satisfied with their progress and development, and we can give ourselves a little bit of a high five, or at least a sigh of relief that everything's going okay. But if we subscribe to this kind of evaluation process, when they're grouchy, difficult, rude, messy, when they have a tantrum, when they're impolite or irresponsible, we also have to take credit and blame ourselves for that. We take credit for the successes, we take credit for the failures, because we think that having a tantrum is a failure. And through this lens, if there's a tantrum, if they're grouchy, if they're difficult, there's this feeling of something's gone wrong. So we might look to ourselves to figure out what's happened and blame ourselves in a way that's not productive. Or maybe look at the kids and be like, oh my gosh, if they were just better in this way or that way, this would be better. So this common belief is that if our child or our children are listening to us, if they're not having big emotions, just being calm and peaceful all the time, acting civilized, then we are good and our child is good. Upsets, bad. Calm behavior, good. So when the upset or the off-track behavior flares up, we try to get rid of it and make it go away as soon as possible so that the child can be good again, because we want to feel better. And we don't want to feel like we're bad parents or that our kids are bad kids. So when we view the world this way, when we view our kids this way, when there is a problem, our nervous system kicks in, our thinking goes down, our emotions go up, we go into fight or flight. It doesn't allow us to show up as the best version of ourselves. So I'm going to propose a little different philosophy and some different assumptions that I would really love to offer you. I believe that these new assumptions, these new beliefs are going to provide you with some relief. And it's based on some pretty fabulous, well-founded, scientifically founded beliefs. And here they are. Children naturally want to listen. They want to love. They want to cooperate with the adults or people in their life that they feel connected to, that they feel attached to, that they have deep, meaningful relationships with. So that's point number one, assumption number one. Number two, when things become too much, and this can happen for a variety of reasons, maybe they're frightened, maybe they're frustrated, sad, overwhelmed, embarrassed, alone, not feeling seen or heard, disappointed, or just highly sensitive kids. There are a lot of children being born into the world right now that are just highly sensitive. And so something happens that might not impact a more typical child, and it impacts them. Too much sound, too many people. And so it becomes too much. And when it becomes too much, their good nature becomes masked behind emotions and defenses. And they might have off-track behavior. They might all of a sudden be very inflexible. Their emotions might really get muted or even negative, and they're not excited about something. They're not enthusiastic about something. And this is simply just because there's just been too much for them. There's too much for them to bear. This is too scary. They watch a show and it's too frightening to them. It brings up other things. Or somebody says something to them and it's just too much. And so they get in this defensive mode and big emotions come up, and it masks their natural ability, the things that they're naturally good at. They want to listen, to love, to cooperate. And so it gets in the way of that. Another assumption is that big emotions, unloving behavior, fear, and rigidity are all signs of help. So when they're really upset, when they're saying unkind things, when they're being really fearful, when they become very rigid, these aren't signs that they're broken. These aren't signs that something's gone terribly wrong. This isn't a sign that you failed or they failed or anything. It's just a sign that something's off, that their thinking is off, that there's something that they've maybe come up against that isn't working for them. And so we see it more as a sign of help, like an SOS sign, versus I'm being really difficult, or I have a bad attitude, or I'm really being whatever we've labeled or judged that in the past. Big emotions are just a sign for help. I can't regulate my emotions. I can't control my body right now. I am not able to draw boundaries. I need you to help me. And that's why kids have parents. If they were able to do that, they wouldn't need us. So we can see that as, they're saying they need me. Now, they're not obviously saying it that articulately, and they might not even be realizing they need you. But when we can interpret the behavior that way, when we get to become this amazing code breaker and really get in tune with our kids' behaviors, we can see it that way. And that will also, as a parent, allow our nervous system to relax. And when our nervous system is relaxed, then we can think and we can be compassionate and aware of our children. Okay, another assumption is big emotions often cause upsets, tantrums, and inflexibility. And the best way to help a child recover from the big emotions is to have an adult hold the space and allow them to actually feel their emotions and let emotions do the work. We all know, when they're really mad, they're going to have a big upset. They're going to be maybe having a tantrum. They're going to be really inflexible. But the part we don't talk about most of the time, that I hadn't heard hardly at all, if ever, before I got into this work and started exploring this, was that what I can do as a parent isn't to stop it. It's actually to create a safe place for it, to allow them to feel those emotions. That is the thing I can offer my children. And when we adopt this approach, you'll find that your story around a child being upset will go from defining that as a sign of failure to a sign that they need help, that they need some support, that they need someone to hold the space so that they can feel safe enough to feel those big emotions of disappointment, embarrassment, frustration, shame, whatever it is. And we can help allow this to happen, that we can help them feel safe enough to fully feel their emotions. And it takes a lot of energy for our child actually to cry and to tantrum and to melt down and to yell and to tremble and scream and let all of those emotions come out that drove his behavior off course. And the outburst is part of the recovery process that gets us to a restorative, more relaxed stage. If you think about it, if we were afraid of something, we saw an animal that we were afraid of, we would need to go through that emotional experience of fear. And then once we had felt it and we'd gone through it, then our body starts the equilibrium process again. Then our body starts to calm itself down. It doesn't stay in that state of panic or worry. It starts to do its work. And that's what we're saying is the same thing. We want to allow these big emotions that come up to be felt and fully processed and expressed and really released. And then the body's like, great, we're done with that. We can restore us back to, to a normal state. Some scientists have done some research, and what I think is fascinating, which is in toddlers or younger children, where children are freely capable of crying and allow themselves, I should say, to freely cry. They have found that when a child gets really upset about something, maybe a child is frustrated because a toy wasn't shared with them, or they didn't get the cookie, or whatever it is, that is such a terrible event to a toddler. They start crying because they're mad and they want it to change. And then they go through this trip from mad to sad, and they start to realize, Mom's not going to give me the cookie, or I'm not going to get that toy that I want from this toy store. And they eventually, if we give them the space, will take this trip from mad to surrender. They release, they realize they can't make a change. This is something they can't change. And so then the tears are still flowing throughout the process, but the tears at the beginning when they're mad and the tears at the end when they measure and they actually take samples of the tears, there are toxins being released in the tears after they have surrendered, after they have gone through the process of realizing I'm not going to get this and I'm just going to allow myself to fully feel the disappointment and the sadness of it. When they get to the point of sadness and surrender and, I'm just going to be in the disappointment of it, and the body starts to regulate itself again, the toxins, the chemicals that it produced when it was in a state of fight or flight, when it was trying to change it, when it was mad, when our bodies were mad, they are released when we become sad and surrender. And the body's just getting rid of it. And I think that's such a beautiful, tangible way to see that our body really does know what it's doing. Yeah, we need to have all of the emotions. We need to feel all of the things. But when we're done feeling it and we are ready to go back to more of a state of calm or peace, or in a way where our brains are functioning and our bodies are on high alert anymore, it has to get rid of the emotions by crying. And it literally does that by releasing toxins through the tears. And even though as adults or teenagers or even older children, they might not be having their tears flow so freely, our bodies are still able to release when we give it space to release. But when we're say, don't be so alarmed, don't be so upset, don't be so frustrated, let me fix it, let me make this go away, we aren't taking that full trip. And so oftentimes that can get in the way of us fully processing our emotions and also send other messages too. Another thing is, after our kids have had plenty of space to fill, they're able to relax, love, and learn. So if we can deeply listen to them, they'll develop confidence in their own resilience, their own strength, their own intelligence, and they'll have confidence in you as a parent that you are able to be there with them when they need you the most. They might not consciously be thinking this, but we all know when we're hurting, when we're struggling, when we're emotionally in a state of conflicted emotions that seem really uncomfortable, when we can have the support, then that's when we need it really the most. And so their little brains will start to put two and two together, and they'll feel confident that you're going to be there for them. You're not going to judge them. You're just going to allow them to be there. And that will reassure them that when they feel like something's wrong with them, that you'll be there to reassure them that nothing's wrong with them. They'll have an increase in their confidence and their love for you. And it's almost like hope and affection and connection exude from their heart after they've gone through this process. They feel a more connected bond to you after this loud emotional expression that they just went through. When our kids are learning a new skill, like riding a bike, learning to read, learning to hold a job and go to school and keep their room clean, or if they're in a new situation, going from one school to the other, moving homes, or maybe a new baby comes, they are likely to experience a lot of frustration. They want to do all the things if they're learning something new, a new skill, if they want to be good at it, or they want to figure out where their place is in this new setting, if it's a new situation. We want to do it ourselves. We want to be independent, right? Our kids want to figure this out, and their belief is super high. And oftentimes their ability doesn't match up to what they can do. Their ability isn't equal to their belief in themselves. And so through failing, through lots of frustration and disappointment, and this is 100% normal. So feeling frustrated when they are up against something that's not working for them is part of the maturing process. We have to all go through this process. We have to hit our heads against the wall and say, oh, wait, this isn't coming easy for me, or I just messed up, or I totally failed at that, especially for our kids when they're learning something new or they're in a new situation. This is going to happen frequently. So every day there's going to be this clash between what they think they can do and what they actually can do. So let's just be aware of that. If it seems like, wow, this is really kicked up, maybe school started again, or maybe now school's ended and they're home, or maybe they have a new teacher, or maybe a new person moved in on the street and something's changed in the dynamics of their friends, or if they're older, maybe they have a new job, or maybe they're coping with balancing the new demands of different things going on in their lives, activities and school and work and stuff. So just for us parents to be aware that this frustration level might go higher in these times. So frustration is a core human emotion. It comes up anytime we're up against something that isn't working for us. And for a child, it might look like not being able to wear his favorite t-shirt 12 times in a row because we insist that has to get washed, or having a toy taken away from him because it's either dangerous or it's not his, or getting a low grade on a test, being the slowest one to run the mile during PE. That was totally me in elementary school, or not being able to get the treat that they so wanted before dinner. When there's a thing that isn't going his way or her way, and he's doing everything in his power to fix it, frustration's going to come up when that thing can't be fixed, when the cookie can't be given, when the mom insists this shirt is going to get washed and they can't wear it right now, or when the toy has to be taken away. They're going to be frustrated. The thinking brain is going to go offline. He can't think of new ways to change things because he doesn't have his thinking brain on, or he's so young and the prefrontal cortex hasn't really started to come online. Now, the prefrontal cortex that's the higher thinking, where we think about our thinking. The logical part of our brain can come on around 7 at the earliest. But realize for men, it's not fully developed until they're 30, and women 25, and that's if everything's going fabulous. So just think about a young child, which either has the thinking part of the brain just barely coming online. It's not super well trained yet, and emotions come high. Ooh, things are going to get really interesting really fast. His a little bit of thinking he can think is completely flooded by emotions and cut off once he gets frustrated. So he cries, he yells, he throws something, he stomps out of the room, says something mean, loses ability to problem solve. Seems like he's running on this anger autopilot. So I want you to think about a time when you've been like this, so frustrated about something and realizing there's no way to fix it. And then just put yourself in that situation and just start to think, what was that like? So I want you to think about where you were emotionally and mentally when there was something really hard that you couldn't change. And this could be as little as being stuck in traffic or the weather ruining an event. And I want you to realize what was helpful for you to recover from that and what was not helpful. If someone, when we were in that situation, had come up to us and be like, it's really not that big of a deal, you're overreacting, come on, get over it. And not that we would mean to say something like to our child, but sometimes our attitude or the way we approach it is just like, come on. There's no reason to get frustrated about not getting to wear the shirt the 13th day in a row. Come on, it's disgusting, and we don't get it. But it is really frustrating for them. And when we come in and we make a well-intended comment, it's like pouring gasoline on the fire, adding more frustration to the existing frustration. Because if we can just remember, if our child is upset, if they're tantruming, if they are having a meltdown, whatever that tantrum looks like, a teenage tantrum looks very different than a toddler tantrum, but they are frustrated at the core, regardless of their age. Something has happened that's not working for them. They already are filled with frustration about it. And if we come in and try to tell them it's not a big deal in a way that doesn't allow them to have this space to be where they are, then oftentimes it feels like adding gasoline on the fire. More frustration to the existing frustration. The child isn't able to think straight right now. And what is needed now is for this emotion to come out, for this tantrum to happen. If it's forbidden for the child to do this and they don't have a chance to move the emotions out, and for their brain to go through this process of going from mad to sad, and for them to have this visceral experience, to understand and believe that they can handle these big emotions without dying. When we allow this to happen, it starts the nervous system to believe that it doesn't have to go into full-blown alarm, doesn't have to go into full-blown fight or flight every time it feels that emotion, because it's okay to feel that emotion. They've had experience with frustration, disappointment, embarrassment, challenges, like I'm so overwhelmed, this is so hard, I don't know how to do this math problem. And instead of them just going into full-on fight or flight, overwhelm, and meltdown, they can have all of these experiences of, like, I can feel any emotion. It's not going to hurt me. The worst thing that's going to happen is me feeling an emotion. I know how to do this. Can you see how the confidence starts to build in them? They're like, okay, I can just feel this. I can let it express. I can even be really angry about what's happening right now. And I'm going to work through it. I'm going to go from mad to sad. And every time a frustration comes up, when they're allowed to feel, they're able to learn, grow, and evolve. They're able to become more emotionally intelligent and more emotionally mature. The only way we learn is by going through the experience. The only way a doctor becomes a doctor is by going to medical school. They have to go through the process. So the only way we become really good at navigating our emotions is by feeling the emotions, all of them, and giving them space to do what they do. Let's walk through what happens to recover from frustration. So something happens and the child feels frustrated that something isn't working for her. So she'll start to tantrum, which is really the gateway for moving this emotion through the body and out of the body. This is when we step in and we hold space and reassure them that our relationship and connection is strong. So our child might burst into a lot of noise. They might start moving a lot, becoming hot, might cry, start sweating. They might lay on the floor and thrash around, arms and legs going to and fro. They might run into immovable objects or try to push things that cannot be moved. Typically, a tantrum isn't necessarily directed at a person, even though they might say something to a person. It's more this embodiment of frustration that's just going through them. Tantrums are frustration that get ignited. And for most parents, tantrums are dreaded. They aren't pretty. They make the parents feel terrible. And they're hard to control or cover up in public, which is what we want to try to do, make them go away, especially in public. But I hope you're starting to recognize how they are actually helping our child recover from their emotions, that they are how the child processes and feels their emotions. If they're given space to fully feel them, then they can just come out and out. So most of us have never seen this happen. We've never seen a tantrum restore well-being because most of us adults are so afraid of a tantrum that we become angry or upset or threatened, or we go into bribing them to try to get them to change their behavior, punish them if they won't stop. It's a pretty basic parenting belief that children aren't supposed to have tantrums, or they're supposed to be minimal, or we're supposed to be able to grow out of them at a certain age. Even though every child tries over and over again to relieve their frustration through tantruming, we don't see it as a release valve. We see it as a broken valve that needs to be fixed. What I want to offer is that we all have emotional tantrums, so to speak, or outbursts, or just big emotions that come up in our body. It's not that we're supposed to make them go away. It's more that we get really good at navigating them so they don't take over our life, and so that we don't have to flail around. And as an adult, that we can feel them and process them in such a beautiful, healthy, healing way that it becomes part of our skill set. But as a child, they don't have that skill set. The thing that we want to offer them is that big emotions are okay, and these tantrums you might have, there's a way to get them out is okay. So tantrums, an emotional release due to an overwhelming amount of frustration, totally normal, developmentally appropriate, aids in emotional maturity and growth, not an indication that anything is wrong with the parent or the child. I will say, if you're getting a tantrum in the same place, time, situation, it might be good to look at if the child is capable of doing what you're asking them to do or not capable. So you might want to look at that if it's happening repetitively. For example, if you take your 2-year-old to the grocery store shopping with you, and your expectation is that they don't touch anything, ask for anything, and that they stay in the cart the whole time, it's likely that you're going to have a little bit of frustration, because little kids, and even big kids too, have a hard time turning off their desire to explore, their desire to learn, their desire to touch. And even if our expectations are on point, even if we're like, no, but I don't expect all of that. I know it's totally going to happen. They're going to get out. They're going to want to touch things. And we're like, okay, so our expectations meet the developmental level of our child. Frustrations still might come up. They might have their own ideas and we have ours, and they clash. And this can happen with little kids or teenagers. Tantrums are part of the way that our body helps us release the emotional frustration so that we can feel it. We get it moving, we let it pass through, and then it regulates back to where their emotions and brains are both working together online again. So allowing a tantrum, or we could also call this an emotional expression, to run its course without us passing judgment on it, trying to hurry it up or make it go away, frees the emotion to move and release. So the tension is released. So it looks like this. They make a mistake, they get frustrated, or they want something that they can't have, and then they get frustrated. Then they have a tantrum, and this is the body is involved in the tantrum, and it might be a little more, flailing than we would like, but a tantrum happens. We allow them to fully feel all the emotions that are coming up, and the child releases the emotions, returns to balance, and this creates cooperation, and they're back to thinking straight. They learn that they can survive big, scary emotions, that they don't have to run away from them. They don't have to buffer from them to try to distract them. They learn that they can survive them. And at the end of the emotional release, they survived, they grew, they became more capable, and they're willing to try again. So they learn just because something's hard, it doesn't mean that anything's gone wrong. All emotions are beautiful, and they feel them all the way through, and then they try again. Let's think of a couple situations that seem to frequently frustrate your child. So I want you to take a minute, you can pause this if you need to, and I want you to think about an event. Maybe it's getting your toddler strapped in the car seat, or maybe it's when they're playing with their brother, they just always start fighting, or maybe bedtime is a place where full-on tantrums happen because they don't want you to stop reading to them, they don't like when you leave, or they don't like brushing their teeth, or maybe getting ready for school causes meltdowns and tantrums, or maybe homework, it becomes too much and they tantrum, or chore time. So it can be around an activity or a time of day, bedtime, morning time, afternoons. So what I want to offer is, instead of crossing our fingers and hoping that these trouble times disappear, let's anticipate that they're going to happen, so that when they become agitated, edgy, or frustrated, we are prepared. And we have talked to our bodies, and we've prepared our nervous system to not think that this is a dangerous, terrible situation that needs to be fixed. It's, this is what's happening later today. Bedtime, it's going to happen, and it's going to be okay. I know what to do. So when we are prepared personally, then when the agitation or the edginess or the frustration starts bubbling up in our child, we are able to move in close. Now, also, if we can see our child's about to erupt, we can also move in close. We should do that sooner than later. And the goal isn't to make it go away. It's just let them feel where they are now and to stay, instead of having it erupt into something more. So holding space for them to just be there in that moment and just be like, I see you. Oh, I can tell this is getting really difficult for you. If we can just offer support at the moment we realize that they're getting agitated, that's really helpful and something I highly encourage. Sometimes holding space for a child's tantrum is helping him stay where he is, not trying to reduce it, not trying to do anything other than just hold it in place. So let's say your kiddo's picked, like it's breakfast, and he's picked his favorite cup to drink from. And so you fill it up and you're about to give it to him, and he throws this huge fit and says he doesn't want that one, he wants something else. So you get another one and you ask him, okay, do you want this one? And he says, yeah. And so you get that one, you fill it up and you take it to him. He's like, no, I don't want that one either. It's really not about the thing. It has nothing to do with the cup or maybe the outfit that he's picked for the day or whatever. It just has to do with some pent-up frustrations that are needing to get out. When we can see this, it's like, his body is filled with foul frustration, and he's using this, not intentionally, it's all subconscious, but his body's saying, I'm really tired of feeling this way. I need to get this big emotion out, and this is a good outlet for it. Then to help the child move the emotions, you gently come in and you bring a limit. And you say, you're going to need to choose between one of these two cups. Now, I want you to know that when you do this, when you set this limit, it's giving them the go-ahead. It's telling their brain, like, okay, time to start the emotional release, start the tantrum. I want you to think of this like the stormy side of your child's weather system. It's going to happen. It's there. It's not a problem, but it's something that we want to just be aware of. Now, a tantrum is full of noise and movement. Like I said, they can become hot, they can sweat, they can writhe and wriggle, they can just throw themselves around in a fit of frustration. So you can be like a safety manager. You want to make sure they don't get harmed. You want to push away anything, if they are on the ground flailing, that might cause them to get hurt. But all that noise and the struggle is helping him recover from whatever emotion from the frustration of coming up against something that's not working. So we're all familiar with that feeling of what it's like when we hit a brick wall, when we feel like we want to change something, we want something different, and it's not going to happen. So we just want him to be able to feel it and move, let him get it out. Moving our body is one of the ways we move emotions. So most tantrums are pretty short, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. It could go longer, but if we are present, often ends a lot sooner than we anticipate. It's amazing. But I also want to talk about one other situation where a tantrum might happen. This has happened to me, happened in Target when my 2 little girls, my last 2 girls are a year and 5 days apart. And when they were at probably 3 and 4 or 2 or 3, I can't remember, they were little. We were in the Target checkout line and they just had an utter meltdown when I wouldn't buy them some little toy or treat candy thing. I don't remember what they wanted, but I said no, and they both fell apart. And I didn't have any other kids with me. It was just the 2 littles. So they totally threw a tantrum in public. In fact, the woman in front of me looked back and said, "Actually, thank you very much for helping my child." And she had like a 16-year-old there. "This is the best birth control ever." And I was so horrified and embarrassed because this was such a difficult thing. And that's where my brain started going, like, oh my gosh, this can't happen. This is terrible. And often that's where our brains go. But I want to just offer that our child, even though it's not ideal to have them throw a tantrum in public, if we can just remember this is part of their process of growing up. And if we can get to a less public spot so that we can feel freer to handle it, that's fabulous. Sometimes we can do that. For me, in this situation, I took one girl in both sides of my hips, almost like in a football hold, actually. They weren't even on my hips because they were just flailing, and just walked out of the store and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to get these groceries right now." I can't remember what exactly I had in the cart, but whatever it was, we left it. And I just walked out because I needed to be in a place where they could feel it, and also where I didn't feel so much anxiety coming up. And so I told the checkout person, "I'm just going to move these to the side. If I end up being able to come back, then that's great. If not, I'm so sorry." And what I want to offer is when we are able to, and this applies to like a teenager, we wouldn't hold a teenager like a football and carry them out of the store. But when we can come with confidence and be like, "I got this, it's okay," and not have our nervous system kick in, and we're able to deal with this in a way that's just calm and connected. Onlookers are going to be really noticing that. If you're in a public place, they're going to look at you and think, "Wow, you know what you're doing." Most of them will have had an experience where they face something similar to what you're facing. So don't worry about their judgment, and they may or may not judge you. We can't really control that, right? But just realize they probably are more empathetic than you're giving them credit for. So just keep your nervous system calm and remember this is just part of their growing up process. If we can just remember how powerful it is to be there and to support someone and to listen and to become aware of what's happening for them and to not judge them or not try to have them be anything different than what they are in this moment, we are giving them one of the most powerful gifts that we possibly can, the gift of our presence, the gift of our attention, the gift of our connection, the gift of our love and of our acceptance that they're okay and that we believe in them. It creates such a strong, amazing bond. It is one of the things that allows us to create the connection where they choose us, which is ultimately what we want. All right, I hope that this has given you some really good things to think about what you can offer in a tantrum, what a tantrum even means. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks so much for listening, you all. If you are ready to learn more about Connect Method Parenting, if you've been listening to the podcast and you think, "Ooh, I'd love to be able to implement this in my life and with my parenting more," then check out Pivot. It's my 8-week program where we deep dive into learning and implementing Connect Method Parenting so that you can take this information and transform your parenting journey. Head over to connectmethodparenting.com to find out when the next group starts.